when we looked at Cambodia, first of all, we looked at the people. We had worked there before. Keisuke had strong ties, and he had friends there. And of course, before accepting the job, I went to see Cambodia and to meet the people. When I say the people, not the people from the federation, but the people in the streets and the people. And the people are really, really genuinely good people that are trying to improve every day. Obviously, they come from a harsh past, and they are trying to lift themselves up. So that hunger, that willingness to improve, and the willingness of the federation to improve and to let us work and to let us use soccer as a tool for education, which is what we want to do, really drove us to Cambodia. So we see that. Of course, in the field, there's players with potential, and we want to develop them. We saw that we could develop a lot of different skills that were not there yet. But it is a long process. So yeah, what we look like how much soccer impacts society in the culture, and how much we could help. We did an analysis, and we see how much we could influence, how much we could help, and how much we could shape. And after we leave, how much better we can leave Cambodia. So we made an assessment, and we decided that, yeah, Cambodia is a good place for us to work really hard and try to improve it, because it's worth it.
Of course,
Yeah.
and even like
And
I
all
was
of all of our work is
please.
sorry, just to make sure. Most of all of our work is pro bono. So we do it. We run our program like an NGO. So Cambodia does a big investment, and they're working really hard. But for us, it's mostly the project that interests us. So it's not a monetary. It's not a monetary incentive, because we don't have any. Yeah.
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, very warm welcome to the VAR Show. The show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to go into of interviews, and we have the head coach of Cambodian national football team, Mr. Félix Dalmás, with us. So without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Felix for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
All right. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's nice to be here. Yeah, so far hanging in well. I cannot complain. I know there's a lot of people having hard times. So here trying to stay safe, trying to do our part in protecting the society around us, and watching a lot of football now that it restarted.
Of course, and you are currently with Cambodia, and it's like, how is the football there? Like, I don't know much about Cambodia. How is it there? Can you?
Yeah, so Cambodian soccer, we've been there for about 2 years, going into 3 years, and the soccer has improved significantly since we started. There was even a huge change between last year and this year, where teams are trying to play a lot of build-up, a lot of different formations. You have teams building up with three. You have teams using the goalkeeper to build up, just like the national team started doing. You got 4-4-2s. You got defensive teams. You got offensive teams. But everybody's trying to play a courageous soccer, which is sort of our philosophy. The league is about 13 teams. One of the teams is a national academy, which is all players from our academy under 18. And yeah, the competition is pretty strong, especially the top 6-7 teams are very competitive, and the bottom teams are starting to grow little by little. Of course, getting sponsors, and the fields are improving. The fan turnout, until the pandemic, was improving a lot. Actually, we're getting some teams were getting record turnouts. The support for the national team is fantastic. I mean, we get almost a packed stadium, around 45,000 people come to watch a game. Very supportive, very critical also if we don't do well, but that's great. It's constructive. So the passion for soccer in Cambodia is growing significantly, and the league is relatively new. So the players are some of the players playing now didn't get proper education of soccer, no education, but like formation. So now the new generation is getting like better formation, better soccer education, and the league is really improving. So the foreigners also that are coming in are more prepared, and yeah, it's actually really interesting to watch. The last few weeks, the games have been extremely competitive.
Of course,
And
like I wanted to
entertaining.
ask,
Yeah.
like you said, it's relatively new, and like since one major thing maybe for a place like Cambodia, maybe like for players, maybe the financial incentive. How is the finances, like involved with football? Like, is it a lot or is it less?
Well, I mean, it's all relative, right? Because if you compare it to maybe the top countries in Asia, yeah, the payment and the financials are a little bit are not as big, but it's growing little by little. And also, when you say financials, I'm thinking about pitch, the fields, the stadiums, and yeah. So like I said, right now there's teams building stadiums. They are building fan base. So it's on an increase. It's increasing. I think the financial investment in soccer and the human resources being invested in soccer is improving a lot. I've witnessed this in the past 2 years. So I don't know exactly how much, or I don't know how to compare it to anything, but the players most of the players at the top teams can live from soccer, and they get a fan base, and people follow them, and they're looked up to in the society. So yeah, I think Cambodia has a lot of potential, and when we started, we knew we had potential, but these past 2 years have confirmed our theory that Cambodia has great potential, and people are investing in soccer in the way that we wanted to. Yeah.
Of course, and like I wanted to ask, like when you talk about potential, like how, like what do you see like in Cambodia that you say that it has a lot of potential? Is it because of talents that you see there, or what is it? Or is it like you have a market which is very, very passionate about football?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a very good question, man. We when we looked at Cambodia, first of all, we looked at the people. We had worked there before. Keisuke had strong ties, and he had friends there. And of course, before accepting the job, I went to see Cambodia and to meet the people. When I say the people, not the people from the federation, but the people in the streets, and the people. And the people are really, really genuinely good people that are trying to improve every day. Obviously, they come from a harsh past, and they are trying to lift themselves up. So that hunger, that willingness to improve, and the willingness of the federation to improve and to let us work and to let us use soccer as a tool for education, which is what we want to do, really drove us to Cambodia. So we see that, of course, in the field, there's players with potential, and we want to develop them. We saw that we could develop a lot of different skills that were not there yet. But it is a long process. So yeah, what we looked like how much soccer impacts society in the culture, and how much we could help we did an analysis and we see how much we could influence, how much we could help, and how much we could shape. And after we leave, how much better we can leave Cambodia. So we made an assessment and we decided that, yeah, Cambodia is a good place for us to work really hard and try to improve it because it's worth it.
Of course,
Yeah.
and you know, like
And
I was
all of our
very,
job, all of our work is, yeah.
yeah, please
Sorry,
say.
just to make sure, most of all of our work is pro bono. So we do it. We run our program like an NGO. So Cambodia does a big investment, and they're working really hard. But for us, it's mostly the project that interests us. So it's not a monetary. It's not a monetary incentive because we don't have any. Yeah.
Of course, and you like when I speak to most people who are involved in football in various capacities around this part of the world, maybe Asia, like they have Cambodia, Myanmar, all these type of places. They say like one of the major problems they face, probably even you could have faced, that you can say, of course, in the follow-up, and is that there is a hierarchical society where first of all, like the anyone younger than you does not question you. So even if you are wrong as a manager, you generally outside, maybe in Argentina where you are from initially, maybe they would question even the coach, to some extent. Okay, this is wrong. If it is wrong, and you can question. But somewhere like Cambodia, how is it like? Do they question or do they just follow anything what you say? Because that can be a very very big
Uh,
problem.
yeah, that's a wonderful question because I've lived in many places throughout my life. Even as a young child, like my family moved around because the situation in Argentina was not so good. So I understand the difference in culture, and I understand that when I became a coach, I don't own all the good ideas. All the good ideas don't belong to me. So we try to promote and we push for dialogue. So one of the main things that I try to enforce as a coach or try to promote is that everybody has a voice in the team. So, and we don't tell the players this is the right way. We always let them know there's no right answer in football. There's no right answer in management. So what do you think about this situation? And we try to guide them to understand what we want to do. And if they understand the philosophy, they will come up to the answer that we want them to get. But sometimes the players have better answers that maybe we see from outside or from an analysis point of view. So we do listen to the players, and it took us a little bit of time because sometimes the players at the beginning will be like, I will like say like, okay, what do you guys think? And nobody will answer. So nobody will show their opinion. So we use different strategies like interactive. I prepare a few like quizzes, so people will say the answers out loud, and then the answers will appear. Quizzes in the soccer, so like I will pause the game, and they'll be like, okay, where is the ball going next, or where should the ball go next, and like, so we made it interactive, and most importantly, we make sure that they understand that there is no wrong answer, and there is no wrong question. So people are not afraid of speaking now in the locker room. In my belief, like people are not afraid to coming up to me and saying, I think that we should do this, or I think this, and we have a conversation and we find a solution together, because I understand the team does not belong to me. It belongs to the players, it belongs to the staff. I'm just the one making the final decision and taking the responsibility if we lose. So even our staff, we're not only trying to develop the players, but we try to develop our staff. So we want our staff to have autonomy. We want our staff to have opinions and to be decisive and to be able to come up to me and say, okay, I think that we should do this, and this is why, this is why, this is why. So I always tell them we're teaching them how to express their opinions and to explain their answers. So the answer is yes, it was difficult at the beginning, but we tried many different ways. And now I feel and I believe that, well, and it's still improving, but we have like a think tank in the team, and so everybody is willing to express their ideas, their opinion, and that's how we become stronger. That's how we became competitive. But yes, it's true what you said, that sometimes people do not want to share because they're afraid. They're afraid of looking like they didn't know, or like maybe their answer was no good, or like maybe I will get mad. But that never happens, either with me or even with Keisuke. So that's the way that that we manage things. But particularly, I'm in Cambodia most of the time, so I try to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and has ownership of the team.
Of course, like I wanted to
Long
ask.
answer, but it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
something
I
really
get, I
important.
totally understand. It's like like, you have seen so many different cultures in football. Like in terms of intelligence. Like if you go to some other places like Argentina or maybe even Japan, where the football intelligence is very high compared to maybe some other places, because they have been playing for a long time. Even Honda has seen, because he has played in so many different clubs and even different cultures. So for you, I can only ask you. So when you came to Cambodia first, was it difficult to implement your ideas? Because maybe the football intelligence, what they knew, was very low compared to other places.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, before we took it on the team, we made an assessment, and Keisuke also like realized that we had to start with the basics. So we started in a very simple way, because we knew that maybe the players had not been exposed to the ideas, so it would take them a little bit of time. And yeah, so we started very basic, and then we moved a little bit. And if we felt like oh, we're going a little bit too fast, then we went back, we reviewed. So very patient, and always taking responsibility for like, okay, if the player doesn't understand, it's not their fault. It's what is the staff not doing well, that they cannot really comprehend this. So change the ways of approaching for example, visual, like visual stimulation, or like on the field stimulation, like after practice stimulation, like trying to promote this thinking and for them to be constantly thinking about it. And little by little, it progressed. And also, our team is one of the youngest in the region. Our senior team also is one of the youngest in the region. So younger players were able to adapt very quickly to this new, being exposed to new ideas. So yes, we were a little bit behind, but it's just a matter of it's not their intelligence. It's just a matter of being exposed to new ideas and knowing how it works. So we're working with the youth now also to improve that. So maybe when we finish our project, the next coaches and the next generation will be able to get hold of a team that's astute and can really adapt to different styles of soccer, different formations, because they understand the game itself.
Of course, and you
Yeah.
like sorry.
Sorry, one more thing. And then
Yeah.
the thing that we worked on the most was implementing habits, because sometimes because soccer is not so because they weren't exposed to this, like they don't understand that habits are what make players excel. So going to sleep at a certain time, eating well, sleeping well, training hard, those really matter. Like it's not the same if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock than if you go to sleep at 2 in the morning. Like little details like that, taking care of your food, knowing exactly what you have to do every day. So that is something that we worked a lot on outside of the field. And Keisuke and our staff and myself as well, we made a big commitment into putting habits into the players and making them understand how important habits are. So that was another part of changing the culture, because that comes into understanding the game as well.
Of course, and like I wanted to ask you, like like you are the national team manager along with Casey, and like you like the joint manager thing. was a thing of the past. Like you had it with Liverpool, I think, a few years back, and I think Sammy Hipia and one more person were in Brighton. So it is not very common. How does it work?
Uh, yeah, yeah. So it's it works really well for us because so of course Keisuke is really busy because he's always he's playing. Now he's playing in Brazil. Like he played today against Vasco da Gama. So Keisuke is always doing, and of course, the business, and he has many projects going on all the time. So I take care, and our staff takes care of the team for most of the part. And I just talk to Keisuke. We get on weekly meetings, and we talk about ideas, different things, and how the team is progressing. And then we plan the structures, and we plan how the team is going to go. And then Keisuke comes during the camps. So when Keisuke comes during the camps, that's when we kind of like, we're in the same place at the same time, and we co-coach. So like I run part of the practice, and then Keisuke runs the rest of the practice. And of course, in the meetings, we do half and half, but it's mostly what changes the most is like the talk before the game. Usually Keisuke gives it. If Keisuke is not there, then I give that talk. But we have really good synergy, and even though we grew up in very different places and we're from very different backgrounds, we believe the same thing, and we understand soccer the same way. And I had worked with Keisuke previously for 2 years, for a few years before becoming a national team coach, and Keisuke having this idea of coaching the team together. So it works really well in terms of power dynamics. I have autonomy and he has autonomy, and our ideas are so similar that there's not a lot of conflict, there's not a lot of but yeah, there's room for dialogue. So we manage it really well. Yeah. And I think it's great for the players to have two people, because I can relate to players in a different way, and Keisuke obviously comes from a very top level. And so my soccer life has been not at that high level, so I understand sometimes their worries, their concerns, what they're feeling. And Keisuke understands soccer at a very high level. So we complement each other in a very good way. So I feel like players, maybe it's just one person, players will get tired of listening to one guy. But since it's two of us, I think players are always like, oh, maybe Keisuke has a different experience, and I have this experience, and I read something different than Keisuke, or because we're constantly studying and improving. So they get different perspectives. So I think it works really well. I'm actually quite happy on how it works. Maybe it should be more common to have two coaches.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, do this, because Casey has played at such a high level, and you don't have many players from Asia doing, at least when he was doing it. Now it's more common. You have players all across Europe and all over the world from Asia who are playing very good at very high level. Do you think he's a reference point, maybe someone who has come from Asia who went on to represent a lot of big clubs? Is he a person who is a pathway that, okay, if he does it, even we can do it? Is he something like that?
Exactly. Yes. That's part of Keisuke's message, because even if you read Keisuke, or if you talk to him, he describes himself as a hard worker. So he worked really hard to get what he got, and his top quality is that he's not afraid of failing. So he always tries, and he fails, and he tries again, and he tries again. He's never discouraged. So with that mentality, I feel that not only in soccer, but in anything, you can attack and approach and dream of anything as big as you want, because since you're not afraid of failure, and you see failure as part of learning, then you want to fail more, because then you learn more. So that's the kind of philosophy that we bring to players, and we encourage them to dream big. And yeah, Keisuke was in the same spot, because when he was trying to go to Europe, Japanese players were not well viewed, and not only Japanese, but Asian players. There were very few, and he had to go to Holland on tryouts, and then he played in second division in Holland, and then he he became the best player there, and then he got the opportunity to go to a big club and play Champions League. So Keisuke understands the struggle and real life. So players really respect that, and it's easy to connect. But mainly, it's that philosophy of failure is part of the process and it's part of learning. If you can fail and learn, then fail as much as possible. So don't be afraid. Like sometimes our fear like blocks us from growing. You know, we stop ourselves. So that mentality really pushes the players to believe, and I strongly believe that in a few years there'll be Cambodian players around the world, and Southeast Asian players absolutely. I mean, you're already seeing it. So soccer is getting very competitive.
Of course, and like I wanted to ask you, like this is a little tongue-in-cheek like question, like. Do you think like you said, like there should be more, dual managers, like sharing the coaching spot? Do you think it's for you it's working because Casey is still playing and he doesn't that's one more thing he has to think of other than just management?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that, but it's also a matter of not. I feel like sometimes people, when they have power, they want to. They like that, and they want to feel that power, and they want to make sure that everybody knows that they're the ones that make the decision. But I feel like that's not the relationship that we have. And if you're sure about your ideas, and if you're sure about what you stand for, and where you stand, you don't need to constantly show power. And you realize that if you let other people in, you become stronger. And you do it not for yourself, but for the good of the benefit of the entire group. So, yeah, I think that Keisuke and I is very particular, is very peculiar because we have such a good relationship that we can understand each other, and we have a really good relationship with the staff and with the people that come from Japan. Because it's not just us; we also have an analyst and a physical trainer and a nutritionist that come from Japan, also pro bono, to improve this program. So all of us are making a huge effort, and we understand each other, and we try to talk, and I feel like maybe sometimes that's difficult, but if you find the right people, absolutely it's possible to do it. Even if Keisuke stops playing, I don't think the dynamics will change. I mean, if he wanted to, or if he could be able to come more often, if he was able to do that, it would be amazing. It would be great. So no, I don't think the dynamics will change at all.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, like you said, like you'll have your own nutritionist and everything. Like generally in this part of the world, where football is not very financially beneficial in comparison to maybe somewhere like England, where you get a lot of money, like in the top level of that thing. And it's like, do you think like players were skeptical of having a nutritionist and having to follow a diet?
That's, you know what? That's a fantastic question, because we struggle a little bit, and we understood that, of course, players cannot, having a good nutrition sometimes is expensive, and players don't make that much money. So how can they like focus on this if they have to feed their families and they have to do other things, So we try to make a program that adapts to Cambodian diet, that adapts to Cambodian health. So it's not such a big deal for them to eat well or eat at the right time. It's a matter of wanting to do it. Yeah. So our nutritionist is she's a Japanese woman. Yeah, she's very good. She's very good, and like the players can communicate constantly with her. We have different apps that we use. Because she stays in Japan, she's a professor at a university. So the players can communicate with her, and she gives them constant feedback, like, is this good to eat? Like, what type of calories am I getting from this? When am I eating this? When should I eat this? What about my nutrition before the game? Like, all those things, like, she answers that in an open forum for the players. So it's just a matter, what we want, when we look in players, is for them to be hungry for improvement, more than actual talent, like, yeah, of course we look at the talent, but being hungry is a key part of being in our program. Same with our staff.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, I'll get back to more of tactics, and
Yeah.
as a coach, how do you see football being played? Like, what is your philosophy? Like, what are you trying to implement?
Oh, okay. I try not to answer really long because I'm answering. I know my answers are really long, man. But so the type of soccer that we want to play, and I say it all the time, and when I have interviews in Cambodia, was a courageous soccer. Have courage to be the protagonist in the field. So since we started in the team, our teams, our players understand that we want the ball and we want to control the game, even if the other teams are superior. We're not going to try to divide the ball or to do a 50-50 ball. We will try to do attack together in a manner that like nobody's afraid of challenging or trying or keeping the ball, having the courage to, like, when we have hard pressure coming from players from Iran or friends from Iraq, players that play Champions League, we will still try to do our soccer. And it's mostly based on that. It's like you have to have the courage to have the ball and to follow the patterns that we decided on as a team. So I felt like before, maybe Cambodia previously, they were like, okay, we're the underdog. We should try not to get scored on. Now we approach the games as like, let's try to dominate this game, and let's try to impose our soccer, and let's try to win this game. In the way that we control the game also, not just win it, like, because you can win the games different ways, but we try to keep the ball and hold control of the game and attack. So there's a lot of aspects also, of course, like the positioning, the moving, the making space, the working for each other, creating spaces, being helpful, because sometimes when you play against big teams, you need to double team all the time. Even in a one-on-one situation, it's hard for us to be successful against Champions League teams. So we try to find ways to make sacrifices and work hard to try to keep the ball in, creating always 2v1s around the field. If we can, 3v2s, and take advantage that way. But the players understand that, and they sacrifice a lot. They play really, really hard when we try to do this type of soccer. I feel it's harder for them physically and also mentally. They have to always be thinking. So we always tell them it's about the next ball. It's about thinking what's next. If you make a bad pass, if you make a good pass, it doesn't matter. It's what's next. Where can I be to help my teammate? Where can I be to win this next ball? So that's the type of philosophy that we embrace and that we try to promote in the team. And most of the players have worked really hard, and they feel this philosophy and they feel this type of soccer, because we didn't just make it because it's the type of soccer that we like, but because in our assessment, it's the type of soccer that will benefit Cambodia in the future. Because we're not the biggest team. We're not the strongest team. We're not the fastest team. So how can we, with the Cambodian talents, how can we use all our strong points in a system? And that's how we build it.
Of course, I wanted to ask you one more thing. Since you said you don't have the biggest, in terms of everything, you're not the best, and you also said how in you have in your league format you have an academic team. So does that help maybe to get your philosophy into the younger players and the upcoming generation, which otherwise would be difficult, because managing only the national team, maybe you get only few days in the full year which you can count, so it will be difficult to get your ideas across. So does that academy team which is playing in the league help you to get your ideas across?
Yeah, absolutely. So the league team is run by our Japanese coaches. There's some Japanese coaches that the JFA has sent, and they're fantastic, and they have been developing the youth academies for the past 5 years. And part of the success that we had in the last Sea Games, going into the semifinals for the first time in 60 years, is because of their work. So, and they have a similar philosophy and they're making players that are very adaptable. So, but my work is not only in those 2 weeks. We actually have an extra week of work, and I am in constant contact with the coaches of the league, and I have really good relationships with the coaches. So I get constant feedback, and we approach the players constantly. We give the players weekly homework. So the coaching, or like if we see something interesting, we share it in the group, and it's like, oh, this is what we have to do. So even if we're not in camp, the players are constantly getting exposed to our philosophy, to our idea, through analysis, through group chats, through audio. So we stopped, maybe during this pandemic, we had to regulate a little bit because the players were going through a lot. But in a normal setting, and now that everything is getting back to normal, that's what we're constantly coaching. We never stop coaching and managing, because most of the coaching is done outside, So when we get the team together, we try to take advantage of that time and work on the formation, on how we're going to approach the other team. So we try to make the other time as productive and as useful as possible. Yeah, but the academy definitely helps.
Of course, I wanted to ask you, so going back to the tactical part, with your current setup, or in the league, which is the most common formation that you see that is being used in Cambodia?
Oh, well, that's good. That's a good question. You know how formations have become so fluid now that the way you attack is different than the way you defend. There's a small trend now in the top teams, kind of like in the Premier League, that are using the 3-back. Also, our team from the start, we wanted to use the goalkeeper to build up, not because we felt that it looked nice, but because we felt that we need to have numerical advantage throughout the field. So we need to use the keeper. We want to use the keeper as the first person to have that numerical advantage. So I feel like teams are starting to use that 3-back formation. There's some teams still playing with 4. There's some teams playing like a 4-5-1. There's some defensive teams. Of course, 4-4-2, some teams. But the top teams, I think the common trend, except for the top team plays with 4-back. But a few of the other teams started to play with the 3-back. It also depends a lot on the coaches. When the foreign coaches are starting to use that 3-back formation, I think it's because they have a lot of influence from England. And, since Conte was successful with Chelsea, and now many teams are starting to do it. Even Bielsa, has been adapting to that 3-back even when they build up. So, yeah, it's really interesting what I said before, is because there's so many different formations being played that the games become so entertaining because they try to cancel each other. It's quite entertaining, I think, in the past year especially. So yeah, there's not really a main formation, but also we play a 4-3-3 usually, and I feel that some teams have started with that 4-3-3 as well, but they try to change, obviously, depending on the game.
Of course, and 3 at the back has its roots from Argentina also. I think I think one of the few starters was, I think, Bilardo. I think he was one of the founding members of the who used it in a bigger scale of.
That's right, and for example, the fact that the center midfielder drops in between the 2 center backs, that is from La Volpe. La Volpe is an Argentinian coach as well, and Barcelona with Guardiola, they used to do it in the best time of Barcelona, where the 2 center backs will open up and the midfielder will drop back So we call it the La Volpe build-up. And yeah, that's from an Argentinian guy. So I've been lucky to study all those great coaches, and also Sampaoli did it, or he tried to do it, but yeah, he did it as well. So
I think Bilardo used it in 1986, but I think Ciro Blazevic of
maybe
Dynamo Zagreb also he said that he was the first one to use, at least in his mind.
I see. 1990. When did you say that he used it? What year? I have to look it up now.
Now, I think Bilardo used it in the 1986 World Cup.
1986.
Like, I think
okay.
you all had that phase in Argentina where La Nuestra was like they used to follow that, and then after that you went away from that, and it's like I'm reading a lot of books, like I think I'm reading the Inverting the Pyramid. I don't know whether you read that.
Oh, I have it here. Yeah, of course, man.
Oh, you have it. I have a little bit different version. I have it here. So,
yeah. I think that's the original one. Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah, it's quite boring in the beginning, but yeah, it gets interesting after you read 5-6 chapters.
That's right. Yeah. It's really, I mean, you have to really like soccer to read it, but it is interesting. Yeah.
Later on,
it's interesting to understand. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's interesting because all the things that we think are new in soccer, they're not really new. It's just recycled from the past. So, for example, in one of our tournaments with the under-22, we used the inverted fullback. We dropped by just one, and when people asked us, I mean, it wasn't my idea. Yeah, I said we take it from we see how we can apply different ideas, and yeah, even Guardiola, which is, I mean, the greatest soccer mind in the world. He said, like, I steal ideas. I'm a idea robber, which I love that phrase, because that's how great he is, that he can admit that, like, no, they're not my ideas, but I just take them and I use them, and that says a lot about him, he's not so egotistic, I love that part about him, and many books regarding him and his innovation and his ideas is how greatly he can mix different ideas in different soccer philosophies. So hopefully we'll get at that point at some time.
Of course, and generally, I think according to the book, at least the most of the footballing ideas came from maybe the Scandinavian countries and USSR back then, Soviet Union, and you had the Austria coffee house and all those stuff. Where you had like the likes of Viktor Maslov, who is said to be the first person to invent total football and those ideas like pressing and all those stuff. So yeah, so I'll come back. That is something you can
Arrigo Sacks, yeah. But wait, don't forget about Menotti. Menotti is a big influential figure that I think the book doesn't mention enough.
Of course, yeah.
There's some in South America. Yeah, in South America we have like our own culture, and so it's nice to be exposed to both, the great coaches in Europe and like the great coaches in South America that sometimes are forgotten. Like, for example, Bielsa wasn't really that big until now that he's in England. Like, now there's books about him in English, but I mean, to me, one of the greatest coaches of all time is him. Even though he had that big failure in 2002, he changes cultures, he changes minds and he changes structures, and he makes people believe. And he's part of the reason why I wanted to become a coach, because of him. I saw the changes that he did, not only in soccer, but in the societies that were around the soccer teams that he coached. And that's part of why I love this job in Cambodia, because we also have a social program in Cambodia that we can improve kids' life and bring education through soccer. So right now we're looking for different sponsors and different partners to create a more sustainable social program with soccer, because soccer owns society. That that fact, the fact that, yes, society supports soccer and supports its players. So soccer has to give back to make the country and the people and the kids better and improve their lives, not only just watching the game, not only performing. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and that's something that I learned from Bielsa, and I learned from Zanetti, from those great people in Argentina. That also I mean, there's great people. Juan Mata is very active. I mean, Keisuke Honda. That's the reason that I came to work with Keisuke Honda, because of all the school for kids that he did, and that was my original passion. And so this national team has given me the platform to be able to work on this. And in the next few years, whatever challenge we take on, that's also a priority. It's not just coaching the team, but making the team have an impact in the society and thanking the society that it represents.
Of course, and like you spoke about Bielsa. Of course, Bielsa is a very good manager, and people of late, generally English, generally the England footballing culture is 6-7 years behind what everyone does, and everyone says that, and even winning 1966 World Cup, I think, was the biggest mistake, because that did not help them to grow, which otherwise change would have come. So that is a different topic. I wanted to share a experience of Bielsa. Like I read, I don't know if it's true or not, but when he was in Newell Old Boys, apparently one fan approached him and came to his house, and he opened the door with a grenade in his hand. I don't know whether it's true. Like Bielsa did that and the fan ran away. So I think that's why they call him El Loco.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I hadn't heard that. But well, the reason that they call him El Loco is because Bielsa is obsessed with football. For example, after he didn't lose, but after Argentina lost in the 2002 World Cup, where Argentina was expected to even go to the final or win it because we had performed so well. After that loss in the first round, he went back and he stayed away from everybody in this room in like a farm, just watching soccer videos for like 3 months. So he is a little bit, and he's a man of principle. So when in soccer, sometimes principles, especially in the management level, they're not really respected. So for example, if they lie to him or they say something that is not true, that they had agreed upon, he immediately, he doesn't vouch, he doesn't compromise on that sense. So I think a man with strong convictions and a man with strong beliefs and honest beliefs, sometimes in this world of football, can be called crazy, and that's why they call him El Loco. But it's mostly because of his passion.
Of course, and I'll get back, and I think we'll wrap it up I have 2 more questions before we wrap it up, and I wanted to ask you, in your relatively short career as a manager, what is the most proudest moment that you have experienced?
Oof. Oh, that's a tough question, man. So it's hard to choose a moment, because from the minute that we started, even the defeats or the things that have not gone well, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is the way that the players, the federation, and the people around us have adapted to what we want to do and supported us and really believed in us, because that takes a lot. Even when we had some really tough games, we looked at the players in the eyes and we're like, okay, you guys want to change? And the players looked back at us and they said, no, let's keep playing this way. Even in the biggest defeat that we had, I was like, okay, we can draw back. And they were like, no, this is how we're going to learn. This is how we're going to continue. And that was those were really proud moments. Not only the victories, but just the process of how the players have adapted and they support us and how they want to grow. yeah, and not only them, but the federation, the coaching staff, yeah, just turning people's minds and people starting to believe in what we're doing is probably the proudest thing that I think that we've done. And yeah, including with the social work and inside and outside the field. I think that's why we spend so much time, and that has been the biggest reward. Absolutely.
Of course, and I'll move on to the last question. If you had to give a piece of advice to a young coach who's just starting out his or her career, what advice would you give that person?
Um, I will give him two pieces of advice. Listen to the people that are around you, and surround yourself with good people and smart people, because you are the combination of the people around you. So give a platform for people to listen and communicate, and surround yourself with good people. And the last one, but this is obvious, be hungry to learn. Always read, watch soccer, talk to people that know more than you or that come from a different background, because that helps you grow, and then you can use it in the locker room.
Of course, and on that note, Felix, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best with your endeavors with Cambodia. I hope you'll reach whatever goals you'll have set out for yourselves, and thank you once again for coming, and hope we can talk again soon. Take care, stay safe, bye.
Thank you so much, and stay safe, everybody, and hopefully we can see each other someday. Okay, maybe I will go visit Nepal.